How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tales from the Darkside. This is Season 3, Episode 18, and this one's entitled Auld Acquaintances. Not old, Auld, A-U-L-D. This is from March 1st, 1987, and is directed by Richard Friedman, and written by Edithe Swensen, who is a series regular, and I swear has wrote a bunch of these Season 3 episodes. This episode stars Sally Grace and Linda Thorson, and only those two. A very tight bottle episode. This is about two witches who are meeting again in order to exchange this special amulet. But how did they get to this situation? Where did their pact begin? Well, we flash back 300 years and see the origin of this relationship. Overall, that's a pretty interesting idea. And like I said earlier, this is a bottle episode. There are only these two actors and only this one set, and it really is always interesting to see Darkside try to do as much as they can with a limited 1980s TV budget. And again, I've said this before, if you guys are film students, I would definitely recommend Darkside because, yeah, young film students aren't going to have a huge budget here, so see the creativity they did with their writing and trying to get more for what they could. Two actors, they did a good job on having a relationship with these two, the back and forth, the differences between the characters, yet and how they play off of each other. It's interesting for only having two actors, and the one set, they pull a clever thing where in the present day, it's a museum, but in the past, it was an active jail cell. So you get to see the difference between, you know, what it is now, the clean, safe environment, and the grungy environment back when it was actually being used. Keeps the sets down to one set and introduces this interesting concept when they play with time in the flashback. So it really does a good job at being a bottle, and it has these really interesting points. Sadly for this episode, outside those interesting points, it has some problems. First of all, the present sections reveal way too much about the past, and in turn there's not too much tension or wonder when you're trying to see, oh, what's gonna happen? We pretty much know what's gonna happen because we were just in the future. So, yeah, that eats away at a lot of what could have been the ending of this past segment. And the rest of it, I mean, like, there are some interesting ideas when they deal with magic and stuff. But outside of a few interesting ideas, there's just not enough to do, not enough plot, not enough twists and turns, because in the past section, you know, like, if they think, oh, this character might die, they're not going to, because they're in the future. So there's, yeah, the future section just killed this, and it really should have been a lot vaguer, you know, because you basically know. So yeah, not enough to do, spoiled from the beginning. It's just, outside of the interesting use of the bottle, not the best episode. Now that being said, when they flash back 300 years, this is an old-timey Salem-era witch thing, and I know some people absolutely love that subgenre. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I know people like it, and that's why people liked Fear Street 1666. If you like the witch trial subgenre, you might have an affinity for this episode, and I can recommend that, even though it doesn't go too heavy into the trial side. But still, outside of that, and the interesting bottle, not the best. Let's talk a little bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the episode's about. We open up in prison with the old witch, and it's the present day. The prison is converted into a museum, and she's walking around looking at several things that are going to have more relevance to her than just the average museum guest. The museum's all abandoned, she's down there all alone, and we get some funny gags where she's just stepping over the ropes and touching things that she's not supposed to, and kind of scoffing at things, and then she's thinking about stealing money from the honor system coffee table. There's some fun ideas here. That being said, I kind of wish they had opened with the younger witch, because a lot of the things that she looks at aren't really super relevant to her, and they're more things that happen to the younger witch, and it should have opened with her, but whatever. The younger witch does show up, and she starts talking about the great year that she's had, and how all the things are working out for her, and the older witch says, "Good for you, but give me back the amulet, 'cause my year has been terrible." Talisman, not amulet. I keep saying amulet. So basically, like, her house broke down, someone she knew really well died, she's upset, and she wants the power back. It's my time, give me back the talisman, I need my power. And the younger witch says, no, not yet. The stars and planets are not in proper alignment. It's not time for the transfer. Then what are we doing here? If it's not meeting time, why are we meeting? Admittedly, that part doesn't make much sense to me. But we then get the flashback. And we see the older witch in the prison, locked up for being a witch. The younger one gets thrown in, and it sounds like she's in prison more for sleeping with a bunch of men than actually being a witch. And the older witch will berate her for that, and she says, "Oh, if you're so powerful, if you're the big, strong, older witch, what are you doing in here?" And it turns out it's because she's lost her talisman, and it's quite quickly revealed that the other witch has the talisman. So they're in kind of a back and forth where the older one has the knowledge but not the power, and the younger one has the power but not the knowledge, and the older one of course wants it back, and the younger one is saying, no, you just messed around and wasted all your time with this magic, but I can do stuff with it. I can take the magic and turn a profit. So, classic anthology horror character wanting to make some monetary gain off of this. But that being said, we pretty much know where we're going, right? And that's kind of the thing that kills this episode, is so much of the tension of the past is who will get the amulet. But we just were in the future, and we know that they somehow are going to wind up sharing it. So there's not much to wonder about. Who's going to get the amulet? They're going to share it. You just told us. And yeah, that part, that doesn't 100% work. There is some fun witch moments, especially when they use their powers and we get a few special effects. And there is a really fun scene where one of them starts talking about the afterlife, and there's some fun, creepy images she describes. So there is some fun witch magic here. But without that tension, knowing exactly where it's going, not the best, And I want to say how I would fix this is I would have more than just the two meetings, and I'd put them in a chronological order. Wouldn't this story be much more interesting? This first meeting, not terribly much has to happen. It does feel a little padded out. Shorten that, put it first, and then show the meeting a few more times throughout history, leading up surprisingly to the modern day. Have a scene where it's maybe only 100 years later and the prison is all abandoned and stuff. That would be interesting. And then have it be where we're starting to get into the modern age. You know, that would be cool. And you could talk about how their relationship is changing over time and how the world is changing over time. That would be much more interesting. So if you're going to remake this episode, which I would love to see Tales from the Darkside remade as hour-long episodes with proper budgets, I would love to see this episode remade starting in the past and jumping forward in time through several segments leading eventually to the future, the present rather. Because wouldn't that be fun to see like active prison, abandoned prison, world starting to change, and now this place is a museum at the end of all this? That would be a much better way to do this episode. But that's all theoretical. I would love to see Darkside episodes expanded with better budgets. That would be cool. I'd love that. Anyway, all that being said, this is an okay episode. Not the best thing ever, not enough to do in the past, and what we get is spoiled. But the idea of these two and their relationship spanning 300 years and seeing the set change from, you know, tepid safe space in the future to the horror of the past, you know, that's a good idea. So this episode does have some good ideas, but not the best thing ever. It's fine, especially if you're into the witch subgenre. But overall, it's okay. To everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist, where I've talked about every past episode of the show. I covered the Joe Hill comic, did a season 1 and 2 overview, and covered the Clive Barker episode early. So if you want to see more, Darkside playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.